What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Wow, another upset on Premier Boxing Champ. Shout out to Al Heyman. Thank you, Al Heyman. I want to talk about Robert Guerrero versus David Peralta and give my breakdown. Make sure you guys follow me on social media at Boxing Ego. I was doing round by round tweets in between this fight. I'm going to do my best to break it down and tell you guys what I saw, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, for starters, the good is, I mean, it's always good when we see, or for me, I like underdog stories. So when you see new players emerge in the division and whatnot, it's always a good thing for me. It shakes things up, mixes things up. So I have no problem with that. Me personally, I didn't really intently score the early rounds, but I was leaving commentary, and I'm pretty good with the eye test and like tabulating it in my mind. And I actually had Peralta winning, and we'll go through these tweets and I'll break down what I saw. So the good for Peralta is, I mean, this is virtually a nobody. He was unheard of. 70-1 underdog, I believe, were the odds for this particular fight. He came over from Argentina and he pulled off a massive upset on Spike TV in front of PBC cameras and nationwide. Whoever watched it, I don't know how many viewers until that information was released. So this is my first tweet before the fight even began, 8:14. Guerrero better be careful. This is a make or break fight for him, in my opinion. And many of these Argentine fighters got cracks. Maidana, Matisse, Sergio Maravilla Martinez. And that was my message. I said Guerrero got lots of scar tissue, eye swelling in round one from all them wars. And I think this is my personal opinion. I'm going to start with the bad because I've seen a lot of what I would say bad or ugly for Guerrero's performance. And the reason being is I personally told people on my channel, you guys can go, the videos are still up. This is no disrespect to Ruben Guerrero. You know what I mean? I'm from Northern California. They're from Northern California. I'd like to see people from my region succeed. But after the Floyd Mayweather fight, I thought that Robert Guerrero needed a change in his corner. To me, it felt like his dad got him as far as he possibly could. Shout out to him. And based on that loyalty and family and stuff, a lot of people have a difficulty breaking that bond. You know what I mean? Guys like Floyd Mayweather, when he thought him and his dad weren't seeing eye to eye, Floyd Sr., he did that and went with his uncle. You know what I mean? A lot of people have that. You got guys like Canelo Alvarez. I think he can learn new things with people outside of the Reynosos, but that's just my personal opinion. We don't know because of loyalty. And I thought Guerrero, his dad, has had him fighting all the wrong style in many recent fights, and this is one of them. In terms of, this is supposed to be a showcase fight, just like the Kamagai fight. Now you have Kamagai fighting on a Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez undercard at the Forum versus Jesus Sotocras in a rematch on the same night as Golovkin versus Brook. The reason I'm bringing that up is because I didn't even know who Kamagai was until the Guerrero fight. Guerrero and his slugfest or whatnot with Kamagai turned Kamagai into a star. Not like a Floyd Mayweather star, but it got his name buzzing where people are like, okay, I'm gonna check for him. Promoters started seeing, okay, he'll put on entertaining fights. Next thing you know, Golden Boy, I don't know if they signed him, but they have Jesus Sotocras, and then they make a war with him. And Kamagai has had other options and opportunities since that, Guerrero. But the very first fight where on American soil where people were talking about Kamagai that I can recall was the Guerrero fight. So you're not supposed to have showcase fights like this that lead to decisions like this or performances like this. It's a star-making performance for somebody else. You're the veteran. You're the guy that's fought the #1 pound for pound, except for the fact that he retired, Floyd Mayweather Jr. You fought a young, hungry lion, Keith Thurman, right? An undefeated star with power who just came off a war with Sean Porter. You've been in there with Orlando Salido, Celtic Iden when he was undefeated, Andre Berto, right? Vicente Escobedo. Guys like that. And to me, this is not the type of performance you want to have against someone. I literally had no idea who David Peralta was. I didn't know anything about him, and that's as real as possible. So you don't want to have a coming out party, pause, for an unknown guy like that. And to me, back to Ruben Guerrero, I think Ruben Guerrero instilled this into his head, which was the wrong idea, and I told people about this. Guerrero, you got to look at the actual facts. This is a featherweight. I think he was the smallest featherweight. and now he's fighting at welterweight. You got to be smart, point blank, period. Because while you're starting at featherweight, and then over the years you moved up, your wife, you were dealing with the cancer, and then over that timepiece you moved up. You had a long layoff, then you moved up, fight Celtic Iden in a tough fight. You seemed like he gassed out a little bit towards the end. That's expected because that was off of a long layoff dealing with your wife's cancer. But the bottom line is, picture Lomachenko moving up from featherweight to welterweight. He's gonna have to use his skill and be smarter. And the Guerrero that I seen in the lighter divisions was far more of a boxer and more technical. But it seems to me, and I blame Ruben, that's the trainer, and this is fight after fight after fight. They fight the wrong fight. They're fighting this machismo, like, he's a warrior, bro. He ran, Mayweather ran. You're fighting this machismo style, and you're clearly not the heaviest hands at welterweight when you got guys like Keith Thurman, Errol Spence Jr., Danny Garcia, and you don't want to fight that type of fight being the smaller person. That's just my honest opinion, right? You got to put things together. You were massive at featherweight, being 5'9.5", 5'10", or whatever Guerrero is. So you had a big frame and you were crunching your body down to featherweight. I don't even know how you were making it as you got older, but you were doing it. So you had an advantage. But as you move up, you got to get craftier. And to me, it's like Benjamin Button. It was the reversal. Guerrero was more technical in the lighter divisions, where he actually had maybe a natural size and frame advantage. But as he moved up, he started fighting like this tough man contest style. And that's not good against heavy-handed punchers like Keith Thurman. Came back months later and got knocked down by Aaron Martinez, who has 4 knockouts career-wise, right? And then later got blown out by Sammy Vasquez, who later lost to Felix Diaz, things of that sort. So I think personally Guerrero would have been better suited getting back to his boxing days, where he was actually more of a technical boxer in the lighter divisions, and stop this like walking guys down and slugfest. It's cool for ratings, but it's not cool for your career, especially when you're fighting Peraltas and guys that we don't really know, the Kama guys, and they're turning out to be tough fights. Like, you look at the Kama guy or Peralta fight, most people didn't hear those opponents' names until they fought you, right? And that was, the Kama guy was after the Mayweather loss and a long layoff, and it turned out to be a war. But you want to have performances where he was saying he wants to have a title shot. Guerrero wants to get back in title contention, and this wasn't the performance to do that, in my honest opinion. You have to show separation. And I look at it, it's right or wrong. The way I view stuff is, when fighters start looking like, you've been in there with Kama guy and Floyd Mayweather, Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, and aside from Thurman, none of them other dudes knocked you down, right? Like, you got knocked. I'm talking about the guys I just listed, right? You got knocked down before by Casamayor and stuff like that. But I'm talking about at welterweight, Floyd, Keith Thurman, and Danny Garcia. Only Thurman knocked you down, and there was a bullshit call that was a missed call in this particular fight that should have been ruled a knockdown. You're getting knocked down by a Peralta. That's not good when you've been in there with Floyd, and he was getting, it looked like he might get stopped by Floyd at one in the mid to late round, 6 or 7 or whatnot. Floyd said he hurt his hands, but the point being is, that's not a good sign when Danny Garcias and stuff like that aren't knocking you down, but you're getting knocked down to a guy at this level. And what I mean by this level is an unknown commodity, an unknown name, who has not fought outside of Argentina, right? Maidana had a ton of knockouts in Argentina, but when he started fighting more game people from around the world, the Eric Moraleses, Adrian Broners, they wouldn't go as easy. You know what I mean? And he beat guys like the Victor Ortizes of the world and Kotelniks and stuff like that. Or he might have lost to Kotelnik, I think. But the point being is, this guy had never fought outside of Argentina till now, and he did very well for himself. So I said in my tweet, Peralta, taller, needs to pump out a consistent jab, try to catch Guerrero with 2, 3, 4 punches. Peralta doesn't seem too technical. So in that first round, he actually tricked me a little bit because he's unorthodox and awkward. He was doing some Pacquiao stuff where he like leaps off his feet, things they wouldn't teach you to do. So I was like, oh, this guy has really no special effects. He's kind of sloppy. But as the fight progressed and you got to the mid rounds, he started to unveil like a second side of him where he was more patient, boxing more, and he was more of a workman. He's not like he's a tricky fighter because he's crafty, unorthodox, but he has different shades to his game. And I seen it as the fight like played out. I seen him get on his toes, and for some reason every time he got pushed back with a punch, he was doing this like scissor shoe shine, like Sugar Ray Leonard type shit. And he got on his toes a couple points, and he later in the fight started walking Guerrero down. So there's different, just good. He reminds me of like a watered down Diego Chavez. Not as aggressive as Diego Chavez. I don't think he's as good as Diego Chavez. I don't think he has as much power, but they're from the same region and similar. Just like a better boxer than you would think. You know what I mean? This guy is holding his own with Brandon Rios, Tim Bradley, Keith Thurman in those early rounds, something like that. But I think overall Chavez is a better boxer, more power, more aggressive, better offense, stuff like that. I think Peralta, in those early rounds, he was being a little bit too economical, but midway through he started to pick it up, and that's where stuff got hairy for Robert Guerrero. PBC commentary is saying punch for punch, Peralta can't compete with Guerrero. Don't forget, Robert Guerrero was dropped by Aaron Martinez with 4 knockouts only. And see, you guys don't want to listen to me, but even though I didn't know about Peralta's, that's why I didn't make any predictions, but I could see the stuff unfolding. And somebody left me a comment, but that was Guerrero who showed up to fight half-assed. That Guerrero would have been stopped by anyone. And I said it doesn't matter. It still happened and it's part of his history. Agreed, but people act like that Guerrero is always going to show up too. Not necessarily, but he has been through several wars, so you never know. It's after watching boxing so much, it's easy to see like the pendulum shift and the ebb and flow start to shift over. And I said good round 3 for Guerrero, but I wouldn't say dominant. Peralta landed about 3 to 4 clean rights in a sequence that pushed Robert Guerrero back. And that's where, to me, it started to all shift for Guerrero. He came out with his best round probably of the fight. He did some good work. He stung Peralta, but then he started, I think round 3 or 4 was the best for Guerrero. Round 4, Guerrero's best round so far, stung Peralta, then started to mug him a la Guerrero versus Berto early rounds. But after this 3rd and 4th round, that's where it started to kind of get away from him, because the workmen were just putting in diligent work. And I said Guerrero got clipped at the end of his best round, needs to stop giving up free shots like that. This was the problem, because you look at, let's say like Errol Spence Jr., Floyd Mayweather, they're like when they're fighting Bundu or Floyd's fighting Canelo, look at his best rounds. He's not giving up big shots like that. So it's about defense. You have to have some level of defense at the elite level, you know what I mean? And even though I'm saying rounds 3 or 4 are Guerrero's best rounds, that's in comparison to rounds 1 and 2. But at the same time, he was still giving up too many freebies, too many free shots to a guy like Peralta. It's not like he had blinding Roy Jones Jr. speed, anything like that. Keep going. Round 5 was a nice bounce back round for Peralta, and I would say he won it. See, this is I look for signs like this, and I'm just trying to show you guys how I think. I'm not saying it's the right way, but it's worked for me and served me well this far. You don't have your best rounds back-to-back 3 or 4 and then go on to lose 3 rounds in a row. That's not a good sign. You should, it seemed like in round 4, Guerrero had Peralta a little bit hurt or buzzed or stung, and he didn't capitalize on it. Gave round 6 to Peralta as well. That's not a good sign considering how well Guerrero did in round 4, then lost back-to-back rounds 5 and 6. You guys notice the pattern, the trend? And I said, am I tripping? I gave Peralta his 3rd round in a row, round 7. Peralta using real estate, trying to create some angles, dictating the pace a bit. And this is where he started to open up and boxing craftier than he had been in those first 2 rounds. Peralta mixed in good combinations and uppercuts. That's something I liked. He started mixing up his punches. Round 8, Guerrero off the back foot. This is where Peralta started walking him down and coming forward. And see, I'm noticing a pattern too with Guerrero at welterweight. He hasn't been making adjustments. It's like he gets lured into the wrong fight and then he's stuck there. You know what I mean? He's like stuck in that mode. And even when he was fighting off the back foot, it didn't look better. It didn't look dramatically better. And this was where this was the ugly for me. There was clearly a knockdown in round 9. Peralta hit him with a sequence of punches. The only thing that kept Guerrero up was the ropes. And for whatever reason, the ref had a good angle of it, viewed everything, the whole sequence happened, and Guerrero bounced back up real quick, but he fell into the turnbuckle like on some WWE WrestleMania shit, and he got back up pretty promptly. He didn't go like where his butt was on the canvas, but he was clearly held up by the turnbuckle and the ropes because he fell into it. And the ref missed the call, complete blunder. To me, that was the ugly, because if anyone's disputing this outcome of Peralta winning, you have to look at errors like this. This scorecard, whatever scorecard that's realistic, even though you can't change it, you can't say this was a robbery or something, because Peralta wasn't even given credit for a knockdown that he clearly should have had. You know what I'm saying? And I said that's bullshit. Round 9 should have been a 10-8 round. And that's what I feel. The ropes kept him up. Tarver saying what I said a few tweets back, Guerrero giving up too many eye-catching shots to Peralta. Again, not a good sign after his best rounds. Round 11, Peralta, more volume, landed harder combos, overall just threw more shots, controlling pace better. You got to show separation at this level. When you're trying to get back into a title shot contention, we've never heard of Peralta. And the fact that it's even this close, like you can't find a way against his craftiness. Again, I have to look at it like, if you put any, like Sean Porter, you put Keith Thurman, you put Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, you put Errol Spence Jr. in there with Peralta, do you think he's winning the fight, first of all? And do you think it would be competitive? Because me, not taking anything away from him, but I think a lot of those guys would probably stop Peralta because he wasn't giving enough punches, you know what I mean, especially early, you know, and that's bad if you're fighting and he seemed, I'm not gonna say he seemed nervous, but he seemed a little bit hesitant. His first fight on US soil and stuff, he just seemed hesitant. This fight kind of reminded me of Danny Garcia versus Lamont Peterson, where you had a guy who in the first early rounds, he was doing some workman stuff, but not that offensive. But midway through the second half, he really put his foot on the gas and unveiled the second chapter of his plan, and it started working a lot better. And then that's where you've seen his best work. But you could argue that he started a little bit slow, where he should have did a little bit more, threw more punches, and then it would have been almost a blowout at that point if he had threw more punches in rounds 1 through 4. And I said, wow, I have Peralta winning a close fight. Peralta turned it up. Second half, higher volume, controlled pace, won championship rounds. And pretty much that's how I seen it. I think that's a fair decision. I thought they were going to rob him, but PBC's doing good, getting it right. So not a strong performance by Guerrero, in my humble opinion. I just think against a guy like a David Peralta that no one's ever heard of, this was supposed to be a showcase fight. This wasn't supposed to be an in the trenches close fight at all, right? And that's the thing with these type of bounce back fights. Even fights on a bigger scale like Canelo Liam Smith. No one knows Liam Smith. So if he has any bit of success, this is gonna look great for Liam Smith. Even if he troubled Canelo for 6 rounds and got knocked out in like the 8th round, that's not a good sign for Canelo, because it's not even, sometimes it's about perception in boxing, you know what I mean? And the perception is Liam Smith has fought a lot of European competition. He might be pretty solid, but the perception is he hasn't fought anybody like Canelo has fought. You know what I mean? He hasn't fought Mayweather and Shane Mosley and Angulo and Edislani Lara. He hasn't fought level competition like that. So the perception is he's just okay. He's a champion that won a vacant belt through some trickery, and if he is successful or if he wins, it's going to be a terrible look for Canelo. And that's kind of what I feel about this Guerrero fight. This is just not the performance you want to have in this type of fight. And Guerrero just seems to get kind of stuck in one mode and lulled to sleep, where he can't really change the momentum or the tempo of the fight. And that's important. It's imperative. You have to be able to make those adjustments during the fight. It's a must. It's like a non-negotiable. And I think Guerrero, if he fought like he was fighting in the lighter divisions, him being a southpaw, he could really give a lot of these guys problems. But it all starts with the defense, and he wants to immediately get some get back, and that's not how you box at the elite level. You know what I mean? You got to be smart in there, and defense wins fights along with your offense, and you got to be reasonable. And he could not get out of the way of the straight right or the straight punches in general, but I noticed the Peralta was landing the straight right a ton of times. So I don't really know where Guerrero can go from here. I don't see a title shot in his future. Maybe like an Aaron Martinez like rematch, him fighting Josecito Lopez, Victor Ortiz, maybe even an Amir Khan. But these are all, especially like Amir Khan, if Amir Khan boxes like he knows how to and is not too shaken up by his knockout loss to Canelo, then I don't know, his blistering speed and him just boxing and moving is going to trouble Guerrero, because like I said, Guerrero seems to be getting stuck in this rugged tough man type of style, and I think that's all wrong, especially when you're not the biggest. You got to fight Like, I hate when fighters do this, to be honest. It's like Tim Bradley. Fuck losing or winning to Pacquiao and death threats and stuff like that. Ruslan is the puncher, you're not. And Bradley fought like he's Commando or Rambo or some shit, and he almost paid the price and got knocked out against Ruslan Provodnikov. If you're not Golovkin, then don't try to walk people down like you're Golovkin. You know what I mean? Put your punches together, and you might even get some stoppages if you do it that way. Do it the way I'm requesting, and you might even get it. Sometimes you got to put it together, especially like Victor Postol. I told people going into the Terrence Crawford fight, some people were saying Postol will stop Crawford. I didn't see that happening. I specifically told people, I think in videos, that Postol, to me, his power is overrated. But he, just like David Peralta, he's a workman-like fighter, and he can get you out of there. It's not like he has punk power. He can break you down like he did to Aiden and like he did to Lucas Matisse and get you up out of there. But it's just not like a Golovkin where you're just like paralyzed from his power, or a Canelo versus a smaller guy like Khan, where one shot just sends you out and no count needed. Guys like that, to me, don't have power like that, but they have enough power if they have a solid game plan and they break you down and they're in better shape than you. Then they can chop you up and win the battle of attrition. To me, that's what Robert Guerrero has, like Victor Postol type of power at welterweight, where he could break you down. You got to respect him. You can't just like plow forward aimlessly with your chin in the air or something like that. He is a southpaw, but it's more break you down power. And he's not fighting like he has break you down power. He's fighting like he has Gennady Golovkin, Errol Spence, Keith Thurman, Deontay Wilder type power. And that's, to me, all wrong for him, a guy who moved up all these weight classes. That's my breakdown. We'll see what happens next for Robert Guerrero. You let me know who you had winning the fight. I thought the knockdown was definitely an easy missed call where there's nothing anyone can say to dispute it. I watched it in slow motion. Ropes kept him up. You let me know what you think of PBC and all the fights we're getting. If you were there live, drop me a comment. Let me know what the atmosphere was like. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video, is Ego signing off.